This is Mastering Your Wealth with David Gagnan, the podcast.
You know, the word trillion is everywhere. Elon Musk briefly became a trillionaire following the initial public offering of SpaceX. That was a big deal a few weeks ago. There are now trillion-dollar-plus companies, trillion-dollar deficits, and trillion-dollar headlines everywhere. But can you actually picture a trillion? Well, Wall Street Journal, they did it for us. They say if you stack a trillion pennies, it would take you to the moon and back twice. That's how long it would take it. That's how many pennies there. Research shows even financially savvy people have a hard time wrapping their heads around numbers that big. So I wonder, for retirees that are sitting on some healthy savings, David, how do you see that number blindness show up in real planning conversations?
That is a great question, because number blindness shows up all the time in retirement planning. The bigger the number gets, the harder it becomes for people to connect it to real life. $1 trillion is almost an impossible picture to envision, right? But even numbers like 500,000, 1 million, 2 million can become abstract when someone is trying to understand what that money can actually do in retirement. A person may look at 1 million IRA and think, that sounds like a lot of money, and it is. But the real question is not whether the number looks big. The real question is how much income can that number safely create after taxes, after inflation, after market volatility, after healthcare costs. There are a lot of things that can start eating away at that money. And at the end of the day, you get to spend what's left over. That is where number blindness really becomes dangerous. You know, for example, someone may think that there is not much practical difference between 600,000 and 900,000 because both numbers feel large. But in retirement income terms, that difference can be enormous.
I mean, that's $300,000 difference, guys.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big deal.
And it may determine whether they can retire now, whether they need to work longer, whether they can delay Social Security, whether they can travel, or whether they can afford long-term care protection. So, you know, the number blindness always shows up with fees as well. You have to be sensitive to the costs and the fees you're paying, because that's an erosion factor that will slowly eat away at your income, the net income. I'll tell you, we worked with a couple who had accumulated a strong retirement balance not too long ago. And on paper, they were doing well, but they could not connect the account value to a spending plan. And that's important because they kept asking, are we okay? So we took the big number and translated it into a retirement income paycheck, projected the taxes on it, healthcare costs, inflation, potential market downturns. And once they saw the money in terms of income, the picture became much clearer for them because we had a personalized distribution income plan in their numbers to show them what's possible and what isn't. So that is what planning does. It turns large abstract account balances into practical decisions because you need to know how much can you spend, when can you actually retire, what income is reliable, what income depends on markets, how much tax will you pay, what happens if inflation stays high, what happens if you live longer than expected. So our role is to help clients understand not just what they have, but what it means to them in their own numbers. So a big number can create false confidence. A small number can create unnecessary fear, and the plan is what tells you the truth. So like I always say, if you know your numbers and you have a plan, then your decisions become very easy as to what you're capable of doing and where your guardrails need to be to protect you along the way. Because we want to help people mitigate all kinds of risk, market risk, and how they manage their investments. There's tools to do that. Longevity risk, making sure you have plenty of income that you'll never outlive. Tax risk. Are you paying taxes unnecessarily because you don't have a forward-looking tax mitigation strategy? Inflation risk is always there, and you always want to make sure you have enough yield to offset that. So there's a lot of variables in the planning. And that's why I think it's important for people to get these questions answered, especially before they retire, so they know what they can do, what they can't do, and whether they can live the lifestyle they want.
And yeah, that's the key. Is that you want to enter retirement and you want to make sure that, first of all, you're not going to run out of money. That's the number one fear. And part of that is knowing your numbers, understanding your plan, and understanding how your money's going to work for you, right? That is huge. And so how much income will that money that you've worked so hard to save, how much will it create? And how much can you spend? These are very, very important questions so that you don't run out of money in retirement and then you're looking at going to work at Walmart. That's not what anybody wants to do. Again, the show show, Mastering Your Wealth, right here. We want you to master your retirement. That is knowing your numbers, knowing your plan, understanding your plan. The good news is you can sit down with David. He's got almost 40 years of experience, and he can walk you through this step by step. He does all the hard work. The biggest thing for you is committing to an appointment and getting it on the calendar. Again, we'll do that comprehensive retirement plan just for our listeners today. Complimentary, 203-872-0009. 203-872-0009. The website, masteringyourwealthradio.com. Now, because we were just talking about seeing big numbers, you got Elon Musk. He was a trillionaire for a second. You got lots of millionaires and billionaires out there. I want to break this down because this may be the headline that we've all been waiting for. USA Today says maybe you don't need $1 million to retire after all, because before you've heard of this magic number, right? The magic number is always changing. The root of the problem is there's not one magic number for retirement. Everybody's situation is different. But with this headline about not needing $1 million, they say 97% of Americans have less than $1 million saved, and 82% of retirees say they have enough money and they're happy in retirement. And secondly, retirees with limited savings have less room for error, meaning a single unexpected expense could put their retirement stability at risk. So, David, does this reinforce the idea that retirement, it's more about having a plan than reaching, this, quote, magic number?
Yes, it is. Absolutely. Retirement is not about one magic number. It is about whether your resources can support your lifestyle for as long as you live. $1 million sounds like a clean target, but it can be very misleading. For one person, $1 million may be more than enough. For another, it may not be close to enough. It depends on spending, location, debt, health, taxes, Social Security, whether you have a pension or not, what inflation is doing, and lifestyle goals, because everybody's lifestyle spending is going to be different. We all have different things we want to do it, and it all comes at a different price tag. Someone with modest expenses, if you have no mortgage, strong Social Security benefits, and a pension, you might be able to retire comfortably with less than $1 million. And we work with a lot of federal employees, and they all have pensions, they all have Social Security, and their retirement savings that they have in their TSP and other accounts, usually they very rarely need to touch it. But that poses a big problem from a tax perspective for those folks, because a lot of times we see that the required minimum distributions are going to compound and get bigger because they're not touching these TSP balances until they have to in their 70s. And when we do their forecast, this is a very eye-opening exercise that they see when we do this. They see and we show them what their required minimum distributions are going to force them to take in income that they don't need to spend. And that's going to get bigger and bigger as far as a tax cost throughout the rest of their retirement. And that's going to create some other expenses. Their Medicare Part B premiums could go up. There's other taxes that come into play if they have investments. So what's nice about what they can do with us, because we do their workshop every 3 months, and these are folks that haven't yet retired, and they're relatively young, especially if they're in law enforcement. They can retire at a very young age with full benefits, and we can show them, you got a big tax problem in the years ahead, and now they're young enough where we can start implementing tax reduction strategies. So it's what's in your blind spot that can really hurt you without a good plan and not having that clarity of a plan as to what's working for you today and what you need to see as far as what's going to hurt you and with these unnecessary wealth transfers that could occur. So planning is key. For the folks that are listening that do not have the clarity or do not have a plan, give us a call, because I'd love to sit down with you, do that complimentary forecast and investment portfolio analysis, just as a starting point, as a high-level discussion as to what we see might be a problem that lies ahead. And now you have an opportunity today for us to really implement some strategies to create a lot of value and lower your risk and give you some clarity as to how retirement's going to work.
And again, we will do this complimentary for our radio listeners only. That phone number, 203-872-0009, 203-872-0009. Don't forget the website as well, masteringyourwealthradio.com. A financial reporter who spent years studying the 1929 stock market crash says a lot of the same warning signs are showing up today. CNBC's Andrew Ross Sorkin talked to 60 Minutes.
The crazy part about this is from 1928 to September of 1929, the stock market was up 90%.
When you say the stock market was way up,
Right.
Immediately I think of now. Are you scared?
I'm anxious. I'm anxious that we are at prices that may not feel sustainable. And what I don't know is we are either living through some kind of remarkable boom, and part of that's artificial intelligence and technology and all of that, or everything's overpriced.
Or we're reliving
1929.
Oh, my gosh. I don't even know where to start with that. I do think prices are certainly at a point where everybody's kind of going, is this sustainable anymore? How am I going to do this? David, we talk about it all the time. I mean, inflation is just outrageous right now. The market booming. But at some point you go, guys, I mean, something's got to give here. So how much can we really learn from something that happened, I don't know, 100 years ago? And I want to know, do these parallels still matter, or is today's economy just too different to compare?
We can learn a lot from history. We have to be careful not to treat history as a perfect script. The economy today is very different from 1929. The banking system is different. The Federal Reserve is different. Technology is different. Global markets are different. Regulation is different. So, and information moves instantaneously today because of the internet. Way back then, it took a while for information to travel globally, but human behavior is not that different. That is the lesson. So speculation, overconfidence, leverage, fear of missing out, concentration, and the belief that this time is different have shown up in many market cycles. They showed up in 1929. They showed up during the dot-com bubble back in the late 90s. They showed up during the housing crisis, and they can show up again in different forms. So when we hear comparisons to 1929, I don't think the takeaway should be the same crash is coming. The takeaway should be, are we taking risk we do not understand? That's in their blind spot. So for retirees, pre-retirees, that matters because they don't have unlimited time to recover from a market mistake or a correction. So if someone is 35 and the market falls, they keep contributing to their plan. They can recover over time. They have their paycheck coming in so they can keep paying their bills and kind of sleep at night, okay? If someone is 65 and taking withdrawals, a major decline can damage their retirement income plan much more quickly. That's what we refer to as sequence of returns risk, where you are relying on a market-sensitive portfolio to create a paycheck. And that puts people in a very vulnerable position. And when we meet with folks and they become clients, we educate them about this type of risk. So we help clients look at several key issues. Are they too concentrated in one sector or stock? Are they relying too heavily on recent market performance? Do they have enough cash and liquidity? Are they taking withdrawals from volatile assets? Do they understand downside risk? And have they stress tested their plan? So would they know what to do if the market drops sharply? And a lot of people panic because emotions come into the equation of making their financial decisions. And typically when that happens, you continue to compound some very costly mistakes. I'll tell you, we worked with a couple who had done very well in a strong market, and their portfolio had drifted into a much riskier position than they realized, because in our portfolio analysis, we could identify that. They were close to retirement and they felt comfortable because the account balance was high. But when we stress tested the portfolio, we showed them what a 20 or 30% downturn could do if it happened early in retirement. And that changed the conversation from look how much we have made to how much risk do we need to take now. So we needed to trim back that risk. And we show folks how we do that with proactive tactical money management, financial strategies, and so on. And that is the proper use of market history. It helps us ask better questions. And today may not be 1929, but if someone's retirement plan only works if markets stay strong, then the plan is too fragile. And people need to know that now. If you're listening and you feel you're in that situation or position and you want a second opinion, you want an analysis done to show you what your vulnerabilities are, especially where we are in today's stock market, give us a call. We'll do the forecast analysis and the portfolio investment analysis complementary. So that'll give us a very good overview, a high overview of where you are, what kind of risk or problems lie ahead that we can see. And now we can have a meaningful conversation about what strategic planning and real planning can do to optimize your resources and mitigate some of the risks that you may not see coming. So call me today, and we'll sit down and compile your investment forecast analysis as well as your retirement forecast analysis. And so we can have a very good overview as to how things may look what problems may lie ahead.
For more details or to sit down with David for your complimentary financial GPS, visit masteringyourwealthradio.com.
Investment advisory services offered through Brookstone Wealth Advisors, LLC, BWA, a registered investment advisor and an affiliate of Brookstone Capital Management, LLC. BWA and First Financial Planners are independent of each other. Insurance products and services are not offered through BWA, but are offered and sold through individually licensed and appointed agents.
Information provided is not intended as tax or legal advice and should not be relied on as such. You are encouraged to seek tax or legal advice from an independent professional.
Any comments regarding safe and secure products and guaranteed income streams refer only to fixed insurance products. They do not refer in any way to securities or investment advisory products. Fixed insurance and annuity product guarantees are subject to the claims-paying ability of the issuing company and are not offered by Brookstone.
David Gagnan and First Financial Planners are not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency.
Registered investment advisors and investment advisor representatives act as fiduciaries for all of our investment management clients. We have an obligation to act in the best interests of our clients and to make full disclosure of any conflicts of interest. Please refer to our firm brochure, the ADV 2A Item 4, for additional information.